Good morning, good morning, good morning. Let's slowly turn down that background music there. How are you, my wonderful Empress?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
There we go. Did we get that right? Am I being heard well?
You're okay-ish. I can hear some background noise.
Yes, I wondered about that myself. Let me adjust that now. There we go. Oh, there we go. Hold on a second. It's a slight technical adjustment I'm going to make. There you go. Okay, I might have to use a different system on this one. Okay. Right, there we go. Let's adjust the volume here. And how are you? How's your week been?
Uh,
Empress?
it's been very busy. Um, I had a coffee morning for families this week at school. I've been still visiting secondary schools for my son. I have just been busy. It's all about my son this month and next month. So
Well, I know he appreciates it.
I hope he does. And then, yeah, I'm going to go visit.
I know he appreciates it. Don't you worry, you know? Mums often say that to me, but actually, children always appreciate you. Don't worry.
Yeah. And then I'm going to go visit my new nephew today and go to the gym this weekend. So, yeah, that's my plan. Very simple, easy.
Good. And can I just say, last week's show, wasn't it fantastic? One of the young, upwardly mobile Jamaican MPs, Julian Robinson, the shadow finance minister, wasn't he an outstanding guest?
Yeah, he was. I enjoyed him.
You don't say with much conviction, my Empress.
No. Do you know what it is? Last week was very far and few between because we had it pre-recorded. So some of the stuff I can't remember, but I remember that he is coming to the UK to speak to Jamaicans to find out, and the whole community to find out what we can do to improve Jamaica. So I think that will be.
But not only is he coming. Hold on. Not only is he coming.
Yeah, Golding's coming. Julian
Mr. Golding, the entire front bench is coming as well.
Yeah, so that's really exciting. So I think that would help give some perspective, give some new movement to what's happening in Jamaica. So I think that's great. I'm just very tired today, so my mood is a bit.
So what have you been? Why are you so tired?
I just am. Sleeping is an issue. When you're a mum, I don't know, sometimes sleeping is an issue. And they say as you get older, you need less sleep. I clearly need more sleep. I don't know what it is, but I clearly need more sleep. And I think I am coming of age. So my birthday's on Tuesday and I'm coming of age. And I'm very nervous about my age. And I've been saying that to my friends. I want to stay whatever age I am forever. And they just laugh at me. So, yeah.
Oh, my gosh. You did not say that. Oh.
Yeah.
You want to become a Peter Pan character, do you?
Yes, if I could, I would. I would be 35 forever. 35 forever.
35, right. See, folks, I didn't ask her age. I tried to be polite, but she gave it up.
I haven't given my real age. I just said I want to be 35 forever. I haven't given my real age.
Okay. All right. I'm not commenting on that. I'm not going to comment. Look.
Good morning, viewers. Good morning, everyone. I just want to say good morning to everyone because it's not very polite to not say good morning. I hope you're all well. I hope you're ready for the weekend. It is the 1st of October. It is Black History Month. Even though I'm not really pro Black History Month, we are Black every day of the year. It is Black History Month. Please try to educate your children as well about people that made the traffic lights, penicillin, whatever Black people are involved in. Please educate your children. There are many books on leaders, great women, Black women. If you haven't seen, what is the film called? About the women that had an involvement in the first man in space. Hidden Figures. If you haven't watched that yet, please watch Figures, great film. So yeah, it is Black History Month. I'm representing Ghana and all the other parts of the African continent. I might be representing Trinidad because my neighbour's from Trinidad as well, and Barbados because some of my really good friends are from Barbados. So yeah, but it is Black History Month, so let's celebrate. Also, the Brixton Black Market is also on today and tomorrow, so please go down and visit. There you go.
Where in Brixton is it, the market?
Can I find that out and get back to you?
Okay, so while you're doing that, let's quickly go on to what I found to be the most impactful part of the program. Okay, and that's of course the health messages, because these are consistent, these are repeated, so that we all understand their importance. Our health is our wealth. And of course, my emphasis, these are not instructions, these are not directives, this is simply, well, suggestions, advice. Yep. But we always say to people, obtain professional advice from your doctor or nutritionist. Okay, I think that's important always to emphasize. So, of course, I know you would agree with this, my Empress. I say to listeners, to viewers, I want you to consider the amount of salt and sugar that you're putting into your bodies. Okay? Consider the impact of salt and consider the impact of sugar accumulated over time. Okay? And look at the typical conditions when we consume too much sugar over a long period of time, too much salt over a long period of time. That is, of course, the biggest health conditions in our community is, of course, diabetes and hypertension or high blood pressure. Diabetes associated with excessive amounts of sugar and your body becoming numb to it, and therefore not processing sugar when it enters the body, or sucrose. And similarly with salt, the typical impact is that of course, is that hypertension is a cause. I'm sorry, I'm on the sleep a moment. Oh, sorry about that. My first, sorry about that.
It's all right. You're cutting out a bit, by the way.
Oh, am I really? Oh, right. I see.
Bless you,
I can see that.
well.
Yeah. Yeah. As it come back now, I believe it's coming back. Yeah, I can see there's a slight technical problem, which system is trying to sort out right now. Okay. So I simply ask people to consider the long-term impact of salt and sugar on your diet. And of course, I would invite those who in doubt, look up a speech given by Professor Hilary Beckles, the Vice Chancellor of the University of West Indies, when he noted that members of his own family have got diabetes, and he noted that across the Caribbean, there's an epidemic of diabetes. Okay? Not dissimilar to situations in the United States of America, and of course, to lesser but nevertheless heightened extent here in Britain and Europe. Diabetes is one of the most prevalent conditions in our community. So I would say to people, please, please, please consider the amount of salt and sugar that you are ingesting into your bodies. What do you think, my Empress? What do you think about that?
I had some jam tarts and bakewell tarts this week, so I can't really. It would be hypocritical of me to say stop eating sugar, stop eating salt, because I know I have a sweet tooth, but it's in moderation. But I had some jam tarts, bakewell tarts. My colleague said, because I didn't have lunch at work, so the last couple of days I haven't been having lunch. So my colleague gave me a bakewell tart and some polos, and she said, "Here, you can have a bit of lunch." I was like, "Thank you." Yeah. But we're very.
Can I say to you, my Empress, and that is a typical situation, and these are learned behaviour. So even though you appreciate the impact excessive amount of sugar and salt has on your body, habits And of course, people being in social positions, you're almost compelled to consume it in excess.
Yeah.
So I've learned to say no. Yeah, I've learned to say no. Okay, and sometimes you get a expression from the other party who said, "Oh, why are you saying no?" But you know yourself why it's important to say no, because your body is the source of your genuine wealth. Okay, and it's not possible. It's not possible once you gain one of these conditions, diabetes or hypertension. You have medicines to manage the condition, but the conditions doesn't completely go away. So I say to people, why expose yourself to the conditions in the first instance? Yep, you've got to take care of your body, take care of yourselves. It's only being responsible. That's the responsible thing to do. But I know the difficulties. I know when I started saying to people, no, I don't want tea. I don't want any sugar in my tea. No, you don't need to add salt to that particular ingredient. I don't need that. It's not needed. I use the expression because you're not fitting into a perceived social norm. But you have to be strong enough for your sake, for your loved one's sake. Full stop. Otherwise, you find yourself being forced to take medicines every day, and that is the worst case scenario. You don't want that. You definitely don't want that. So I say to people, I ask you to consider the amount of salt and sugar you are ingesting into your body. Equally, I ask you to consider the amount of fat and carbohydrate and starch we're consuming. Fat typically from meat products. You know, you see it in the meat and you see the white streaks in the meat, and they don't reduce the price for the white streak because it's all part of the purchase. Ha, he says, you know. And of course, I reiterated last week, dairy products are usually just, well, cow's fat in different forms. Cheese is hardened cow's fat. Yeah, and milk, of course, is bovine lactose, just another form of cow's fat. You know, I say to people, please think it through. Think about the long-term implications. I know when you see your bloated bodies, bloated shoulders, bloated chest and abdomen, and bloated thighs, and of course, bloated behinds, you know, they may have some sort of, some, well, I don't know, romantic interest. That's the term to use, my empress,
Yeah.
romantic interest.
Romantic. I don't know about that. I stay away from stuff like that. Yeah, I stay away from stuff like that.
Well, it must be, because clearly in our community, particularly in the United States, for example, 80% of women are overweight, and 80% of those who are overweight are obese. Can you imagine? On average, African American women are heavier than the men.
Yeah, but is it in America they have where the food, they have a food association where they check the kind of preservatives and
Yes.
additives they put in their foods. In UK, they don't really have that strict regulation in America, so maybe that is why they're obese. I don't know, and I don't know, maybe it's a country where big women are appreciated. I have no idea, but what I'm
Well,
saying is I think their standards of living is very different from the standards of living here.
yeah, I think you're right. And I also think, just so we're clear, that clearly if you're overweight, you're carrying undue burden on your body. For all intents and purposes, you are, you know, potentially reducing your lifespan. And you're most
Yeah,
certainly
sometimes it
exposing
also could
yourself.
be a thyroid problem. I've heard it could be a thyroid problem as well. There's a thyroid gland that produces something that causes people to put on weight as well. And I think once you remove that gland, I'm not too sure I've heard about it, but if anyone knows better, please come and tell me, or I may have to research it again. But there is a gland that causes certain people, and I think it's also a generation thing. If you come from a family where you're overweight, you're likely to have overweight children as well, which I've seen for some people as well. So
I believe
people
again
can't break that habit, and there's some people that are quite big, but they're more healthy than me. And I'm not saying that just to be biased. I'm just trying to play devil's advocate, because I just don't think we can solely blame it on food. There are other factors as well. And in Samoa, in the Pacifics, big women are classed as a great thing. Just want to put that out there. So if you are big, put that out there.
maybe what we should do is get the nutritionist back in here again.
Maybe, yeah.
Okay. And that's what I've got to do. That's why, but can I hear you?
Yeah.
And that's part of the resistance to the health messages.
Yeah, it's not resistance. It's not resistance.
No, let me finish. Hold on, let me finish. You see, what it is that clearly all the evidence suggests that if you're overweight, you carry excess weight. Okay, what you're doing is undermining your ability of your body to defend itself, both against you're undermining your immune system. Okay, you're putting undue strain on your heart. Okay, you've got excessive amount of fat flowing through your bodies. Okay, and so what it does is stores it. So your lifestyle is affected as well. Your general health is affected. And I'm going to show you, my Empress, 80% of the African population in America isn't naturally above the average weight per kilo. When you look at height versus weight, that is not our natural state. It's a state that's been created in the past 25 years. Prior to that, if you look at African Americans in the 60s and 70s, when we have the Soul Train, you see those long, beautiful women with long, beautiful bodies, and they're shaking around. Oh my gosh! Now it's it's, if I may say so. I hear you. But I'm not going to give any excuses for myself when I slightly raised my weight. And that's because, one, of me living a more sedentary lifestyle, and two, a lack of exercise, and paying attention to my diet. Once it was clearly obvious to me what I was doing to myself, I changed. I simply changed my lifestyle. Okay. I made sure before we show I exercise. Yep, I exercise. Go for a run across the road to the park and do my weights. Oh, let me get my weights up. Here you are. Got my weights. See? Do my weights for a good 20 minutes. And I can assure you, my body is stimulated. Okay. I'm very careful with with what I take into my body now, and of course, it's so important to drink the appropriate amount of water and so on. So I have my water handy right now. Okay. Now I say that not in any way to do anyone down, but my primary purpose here, because of my other hat, my public hat, I see the stats. And I lament that our community, it's eaten itself, in some cases, to their graves. And we can and must do better. We can do better. Why I do this every week. Does that make sense, Empress?
It does, but I've got a PT, and he always says you can have a treat once a week. So I'm not knocking what you're saying. I'm not knocking at all what you're saying. But what I'm saying is everybody's body is different, and what someone's body can take, some other people's bodies can take. And I think there is a pressure on us to look a certain way and be a certain way. And young women are going under the knife because they want to be a certain way, or because their body's like this. And sometimes when they do that, we end up with more deaths, or we end up with something else happening. So I think we need to be mindful as well about the health news that we're putting out there, so we don't make people feel guilty about the weight that they are as well. That's what I'm just trying to be conscious of.
I do understand, yes. So So my last comment on the health messages, because now we've covered those bits, and that's really good. I love this. I love this feedback. In fact, if there's
Dialogue.
anyone out there who disagrees with what I've said, I'd like to do this every week. I'd love anyone who disagrees. Oh, come on now. To call in. I'm going to put the number up
I
on the
find it a
screen.
bit.
Look, I've got the number up on the screen. If you're in the UK, it's 0208 133 5616. If you're outside the UK, you take off the first zero, say +44 208 133 5616. I'm interested to hear from people who were able to give, as my wonderful co-presenter Empress Abner has been able to do, to defend the reasons why some people might have weight condition or not eating well. Okay, I'm interested to hear from such people, because it's not until you interact, until there's a reason to interact, until you feel your voice has been heard, it's only at that point, I suspect, many people will look carefully at their diet, look carefully at the amount of exercise they do, and of course, look carefully at the amount of water that they consume each day. And if in doubt, I say to people, please, if in doubt, go to your doctor, go to your nutritionist, speak to someone who has access to your medical records, okay, so that you can receive the best medical advice. Okay. What we say here, it's really guidance, isn't it? It's really just guidance, and it is intended to stimulate a debate, a dialogue, as I have with my wonderful co-host, Empress Abner, a wonderful dialogue.
Yeah, I just think sometimes people who are overweight get a lot of backlash for their weight, and I don't really appreciate it, because skinny people get backlash for being skinny, and I think some people are just a certain way. Do you understand? Like, I always get told, oh, you're so petite, you're so this. I can't do anything about it. I don't know what people want me to do. I eat the way I want to eat. I live the way I want to live. I exercise when I want to exercise, but it's become more vigorous now. But it's just, I think it's nice to have an emphasis on weight, but some people really, really struggle with their weight, so we just need to be mindful of how we approach the situation with their weight, and just be mindful that some people find their struggles with weight is from their childhood, it's from maybe trauma, so it could be a whole bag of things, and we need to just be considerate to that person's feelings, and
I
considerate
completely agree, which is why the focus here is on nutrition, exercise, okay, drinking a appropriate amount of water, and maintaining a good, positive mental state. Okay.
But also, I want to say that organic diets and eating organic food and more healthy food can be expensive for some families who are on a budget as well. So, even if you go speak to your health visitor or someone at the doctor's, and they could tell you how to make a nutritious meal for 5 with a certain amount of money, that's something you can do. There's always stuff in Tesco, Asda. God, it's not Safeway no more. We don't have Safeway no more. We have, God, that makes me sound my age. Tesco.
Yes.
Sainsbury's.
We don't need to quote the name of those companies, don't you worry here. They've not paid us, yes. But
no, it's not even there. I'm just saying they have books, so you can, and I know my manager is doing something like that with how much a family can spend under £10 for a meal of how many people. So there's loads of things out there. I'm just saying we need to look at the pros and cons of everything.
You're very sensitive. I agree with you. And I must say, I must speak to your manager one day about that, because if he's doing that analysis, what is actually affordable, that'll be interesting to see. Is I'll have a chat with him, if you don't mind. That'll be an interesting exercise to look at. What is truly affordable? Is what's affordable nutritious? Is that what you're saying?
Also, I found that when the Black Cultural Market is on today and tomorrow from 11 till 5 o'clock, and it's on 248 Ferndale Road.
Hill Road. Okay, 248.
Ferndale.
Ferndale. Forgive me. Ferndale. Road.
Yes.
That's in SW, what's Brixton, isn't it? What's that, SW9 or don't know what it is. Yeah, but Brixton nevertheless. So if those of you wish to visit that event, it's in Ferndale Road in Brixton. There you go.
And also,
yeah,
if families are struggling with bills or anything like that, there's a company called Turn to Us, and they calculate what benefits or what things you're entitled to or what things you can get. So if parents are struggling, to my viewers, please click on the link of Turn to Us, and they may be able to help you as well. Because I know
absolutely right. Yep. Very, very well said. In fact, you maybe that in itself is a show how to afford the cost of living crisis. That's a future show. So let's prepare the way for that, and we might invite your guests, therefore, Empress Abner.
That's fine, because I'm even thinking about my bills as well, because I've got
yes.
turtles. I've got turtles, and turtles need to do their the thing that cleans their tank, and electricity for that is a lot, and for the heating in the turtle tank. So I might have to get rid of my turtles with the electricity.
Oh, sorry. Did you say actual turtles? But they grow to quite large, don't they?
Yeah, I've got no. They're not that big. They're quite small, but they get to the size of my hand in 3 years' time. So.
Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! Well, that's an interesting domestic pet.
It was for my son. My son wanted it for Eid, so I got him some turtles.
Good for you. Oh, that's very good. At least he has to take care of another creature. That's good. That's good. Can I just say lastly on on this social media theme? So we mentioned last week Julian Robinson, and we hope that next week we'll have an interview with the delegation whilst they're here in the UK, and that'll be fantastic. And in the following weeks, there's some interesting guests lined up. But what I really want to say is that the show itself has evolved over time, and I'm really pleased in the manner in which it's evolved. But today's program is going to tackle an issue which is annual, but is continuous. And that is, of course, to remember our heroines and heroes, those who fought and died, okay? Those who fought and are alive but need our support, and how we support such men and women. Okay? These are a group of people we do not talk about enough. Those who have served and have sacrificed so much for us. So I made sure, and I know you agree, Empress Abner, at least once a year, we give the program over to remembering our fallen heroines and heroes. So I wonder if my guest has arrived yet. We might have. My guest may well have arrived, and let's get things set up for her. There we go. Let's bring her into the.
It's very interesting that you're talking about Black Poppy Rose, because my son's learning about World War II. And I said, and it's Black History Month, and I was saying, is your teacher not teaching you about the Muslims, the Sikhs, the Blacks, all those people that died in World War? And he goes, no, Mum, she's teaching us about sheltered houses. And I said, well, I might have to have a word with her and tell her about the Black people that died and the Muslims that died, because that is very influential in World War II as well. So the Black Poppy Rose thing that we're talking about today is I can maybe pass that on to my son and his school. So that would be very interesting.
And maybe we might want to persuade the teacher to review the recording of this program. But I know that our guest, Selina Cartier, and I wonder, Selina, can you hear us? Are we being heard all right? Wonderful. Our guest, Selina Cartier, you don't mind me saying this, Selina, is something of an expert on the subject. Okay, and
maybe she could come and talk in our school. Maybe she could come to the school and talk. You never know.
Well, I'll leave you and her to negotiate that after the show.
We can. I'm very good with flowers, chocolate, so there you go. And tea as well.
Cheesecake.
Oh, I love cheesecake as well. Yes.
Oh, women! I just had my health section of my show. Oh, come on now. You said fruits. That'd be wonderful. Or raw vegetables.
As you get older in life, the chemicals in the body need to know what that is. That it's cheesecake.
Okay, you see, audience, that's why I give out these messages every week. But of course, it's not until you go to your doctor and you have your annual checkup. It's at that point you say, maybe the health messages was meant for me also. Okay, that's what I'm going to say. I'm not going to say any more on that subject. Let's go to Selena Cutty, the founder of the Black Poppy Rose campaign. Okay, and it's been just over a year or just under a year since you were last here. Okay, a great deal's happened.
That's right.
A great deal's happened. A great deal's happened. So, what I want to do before we begin the interview, because obviously you are, I've always said, a very special person. For you see, for someone so young to be so passionate on this subject, I know there are many men and women who are in the service who admire your campaigns. I did want to say that to you right off the bat. I've met quite a number of ex-service women and men who are aware of the Black Poppy campaign, recognize importance, and have said, next time I speak to you on air, to extend their thanks and appreciation to you. Okay. How are you, my dear? How are you? Good. Now, I'm getting a slight delay. I just want you to speak up just a little more for me, please, Selena.
Okay.
Oh, I'm not hearing you. Oh, can you hear Abner?
Yes, I can hear.
Oh, right. Okay. So maybe just my end. That's okay. Now, let's start the interview, and I'm gonna hand over to Empress Abner, because we've got some questions for you, and I normally start off. I normally start all this, but
yeah,
you
but
know what?
I want to know about Black Poppy Rose because I've never heard of it, so it's very new
Empress
to me.
Abner,
Very.
So whatever questions you got there, whatever to them you send them my way.
Okay, that's fine. That's absolutely fine. So we understand that you are not any ex-military, but you belong to a military family. Please share to the listeners some of your military family histories and behind Black Poppy Rose as well.
Right. So Poppy Rose now 13 years ago. The Black people weren't in the war. I'm behind it, but I said Black people weren't in the war. I went to a good school. So when I then learned, and I included Tony Warner from Black History of Black people there, artifacts, really, things like that. I thought, well, if I said out of my out of their mouth, that is not true and truthful, because it doesn't sit well, won't grow when you're not truthful. You need to make a solid, a solid. From that, I thought, well, everybody else's ancestors, and I don't know enough. Look at me; they see a Black woman, too. Well, where in Africa would you like me to go back from the West Indies? And that can be broken. So I to start a conversation with our community, conversation for my lives. So Black was because Marcus African flag. Poppy, you automatically remember honor and respect for all those who didn't wear military uniform, tiered into the armies. Impacts it had on everybody's service personnel, and it was for us to be able to, in a way that we've been remembrance, because we stand country colonialism, and it was us to be able to think about what we think and feel in our thinking, in our stagnation, because don't let go of, because we don't want to comprehend anything outside. So it was designed for us to be able to start. It couldn't have been a thing where I just black people serve, because we're not.
I'm really sorry, Selena. We're just experiencing you're cutting out slightly as you're speaking. I'm not sure if there's just test your system at your end. Just make sure you've got a good signal. Let's just checking now.
I have lit up.
Okay. Don't you worry. Okay.
Can you hear
we
me?
are cutting out. Yeah, we can.
I can hear you, but it's still cutting out a little bit.
Yeah, cutting out
Okay.
just a little bit. I can't tell why. This end looks fine. Oh, I continue, don't I? You continue, sorry.
That was that, and then black military. So the country on the website, they have adopted, because I'm a Carty, a man called Gilbert Carty, because I of the Carty families from World War II, that his five sons, who's called Albert Carty, he served in the number 2 construction battalion, which came to Scotland, served regiment, and then went back to Canada, and 5 of them went on to serve. But then I have a cousin who traveled from Jamaica to Germany there on my maternal, and then there are other families joined the armies after World War II, but I didn't know any of this journey of doing Black Pop Heroes and learning about legacy, learning about us all based on our own how we're interconnected.
Just asking, do you have children, and would you like them to go into the army?
Children, and when it me, my opinions out there anymore, like us on this planet, and we are British. My children decide that they want country, then I'm not opposed on how they feel that they have to execute, because there are several jobs, there are several that we are having to, for the survival of the nations, that I'm not, I've got my feel about those infrastructures onto anybody else's. I happen in the past so that they are prepared themselves into, because I think dealing with, if we're choices being prepared, the places that we find ourselves in strength, because we belong in all reason why we are not going for the military. There's no reason we're not going to be, entertainers. They're permeating through every part of society to build in the places that we.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. Definitely agree with that.
And if I may, you can answer the next question, of course.
Yes, my next question is, so I've got a list of questions, Lena. Is your experience that British military agencies appreciate the sacrifice of African Black women and men that have made service in Britain, that have made their service to Britain?
Tip, right? That's. But whenever you have a question to it than just the question, they appreciate everything to benefit their infrastructure. That's the blanket statement. It comes down to our communities. We need to understand that says a fact of life from upper classes, and all of our purposes here, whoever is in charge, fact, but that those are with based on the history that I look at. Our contribution, ownership, right? Since 1884, 85, the 1700s, they had the West Indies. Europe dominated the entire world, that they created infrastructure to build into for things and build their own schools and do all the things that it is still under the old framework of whites. And with that being sent to us and our contribution, when you're a phenomenal person, if you more things to do, you know, the average or less or whatever it is. But when you are C class, you're gifted, and that doesn't matter on what race you was, and the prejudices that can be found. Comes to the army, when I listen to people, they're dealing with battlefield. You know, you're conditioned to be a go and kill, to be able to, so no rationale from your, but follow orders because the people know what's best, and you're the person who, you know, it's not a simple. Nothing is ever simple, but break down the rationale behind and all aspects of it, because it's a racist infrastructure, emotion, lack of support, things like that. But that's all racism, and changes or nothing is evolving. Dealt with 1,000 years of racism, years to kind of start getting some things to be a particular type of work. You know, far we haven't come far enough time. There aren't enough people pursuing more access to themselves, things that need to be challenged from their other people experience. You know, if you know, you can challenge from your challenge from somebody else's perspective, it's from your own, because that's so. Whether or not they appreciate it, the way, because we are a part of that culture, you know, the mindset is always the second. We are third. That's how I look at it, and that's how
I definitely agree with you, because for me, to have a black poppy rose and not be part of the actual National Poppy Day, because I don't think I've ever seen anything to do with black people on National Poppy Day, is quite bizarre. But it's like we always have to do something separate or additional to be recognized or to be known. And I don't think, and if we're in UK and it's diverse and they're supposed to accept us, why can't we be part of it than an additional add to whatever they do, if that makes sense? And that's how I think Black History Month as well. It's an add-on to something just to celebrate whatever we've gone through for 1,000 years. And they said, but you have to get over it. It has. And I'm just like, but why do we have to accommodate to something that we experience, if that makes sense?
It does, because they are accommodating, right? Accommodated, not in, you know, and inclusion and diversity and all these other terms to continue to keep us out. Yeah. So that you can have your time, you know, this world, you know, but that's what own time, not in the real. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
That and you know, there are many films that there's a one called Equilibrium. Tay Diggs in it, minded the black man in it. Tay Diggs in it, and the guy who played Christian Bale.
The one in Batman.
Yes, and he also was in America. So he is in it, and the film is suppressing the human emotion. There's points of the day where they've got to be able to add to their chemical. They're not allowed to have art. They're not allowed to have music that would that would psyche, the human chemical. And when you stop taking, it has different times where, you know, it starts, because we're not all the same. So they've that we deal with today that are generic, that should last maybe take your new dose. And on your resistance coming into your system means that you, because it's not going to work for the 6 hours. So you start feeling and observe, and you look at the self. We are so censored own expression. You can't do this. You can't go there. You can't do this. From having a unique experience we could have, because somebody what we should be and in what way we can. When I think about remembrance, you know, because it's a red poppy, because that was given in the British Empire, but by big poppy, red, all those who fell in the British. When you look at the top of those who were, it was not our faces, orders. It was not us making the order of, you know, the run-ins and it was not our community of a bigger. And as a result of that, if you're in England, an Englishman in England, do you not?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
If there's room to talk about that's what you do.
Mm-hmm.
But again, around involvement, the mindset is one that if we already know it, kind of stick to the parts that we think are, and that, you know, the main campaign was how we were successful, all the other bits. So when you know, see it, all right, nobody cares. Nobody's talking about the biscuits, where the, you know, Tesco's value range, cream cheese. Nobody's talking about the mix all these ingredients in. Nobody, you've got your vanilla from whether or not you've got your vanilla from South America.
100%.
They're just talking about the tea on top of the cheesecake, which is decorative, and inside all of us, but we don't talk. And those of us who know, that's why I do Black Poppy Rose, because I know that part of that cheesecake. I feel that enough is said about the cake and the, you know, the significant, you know, so delicious. Also, everybody to know about those skin villain. I want them to know coming from Ghana. I want them to know about the South America. I want them to know about the work that I do, the way that I.
That's good to know. In 2010, what did you achieve when you started the Black Poppy Rose campaign? What was the hope for the campaign?
People would remember, that people would stop, that they would, you know, take ownership, that we would say, you know, we there, and we would pass it on to our children. We would look at our own person to have those conversations. So when they're, you know, having conversation with their peers, they're able to have a stable that is able to know about a history that written that, and not feel that they are separate. Notice when you feel you're separate, it's reclusive, you know, and as much as it is for somebody who has knowledge of self and know about knowing whether or not your lungs are oxygenated and deoxygenated, very, very much about, you can't tie ourselves back to the beginning of, to have somebody living at the beginning of time. The human experience did not stop.
Sorry, Selena, but we're having some difficulty with your audio. I've been trying to clear it up, but it doesn't appear that it's clearing up. For some reason, your audio is cutting in and out for some reason. Can I just make a suggestion, which
Yep.
is a simple suggestion? If you leave for the moment and then refresh your connection, that might make a difference. I can't see why. I've checked all the settings here. Does appear to be fine. Just leave us a moment and then return. Hopefully that
Okay.
might refresh the connection. Right.
I'll be back.
And thank you. And of course, my process is the usual thing. I've been always involved in remote studios, of course. It's always interesting technical issues we experience.
But you're cutting out a little bit as well.
I'm a technical as well? Okay, right, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's just me working today, people. It's the Bina show. It's not the Demotivator show today. It's all about me.
Well, it does appear to be, which I do find an interesting problem to have at the moment. But never mind. I'll figure that out during the week. Let's see. Just wait for her to return. I'll put some of the background music while you're talking. Your last questions. Does the British military establishment recognise the service of our community? Well, clearly not. But anyway, here we go. How are you there, Selena? Can you?
I'm well. I changed my browser, so it might help.
It is much
That's
better.
so much better.
Yeah,
so much better. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know why I'm full of energy. I haven't had much sleep, but I'm full of energy.
As you should be.
You tell us.
I've got
Okay.
a hero. He kills me.
Ask the question again there. My first question in 2010.
I think we was asking about why you started the Black Poppy Rose campaign in the first place. I think that was so all the viewers can hear.
Okay, so because I feel that our community is heavily disrespected. You know, that's
Indeed.
the first thing.
Indeed.
And you know, I've studied history for a long time now, for about 15 years, and I've looked at the examples of yesteryear. I've looked at what I think works. I've looked at what I think doesn't work. And, you know, I hold no judgment on those who've made choices because, you know, I'm empowered by those who have made choices because they help me to be rational with the choices that I go on to make. But it gives me examples to see what may have worked, what may not have worked. So with the Black Poppy Rose, the idea was to go out to the average person on the road. Anybody on the road? What do you think? You know, because that's how I started, almost like a door-to-door salesman, even though I did door-to-door sales when I was younger. So a lot of the things I did when I was younger kind of prepared me for this point. And I was asking them, do you think we need one? And, you know, the consensus was, well, we weren't even there. So what do we need one for? And I'm like, well, I know we were there. But you don't know we were there, which means that we need one, right? Because you don't know. And you're not trying to know with what already is available. And if we're not trying to know with what's already available, then from my perspective, more has to be done. But it's in the way that it has to be done, you know, because I don't force this on anybody, you know, want it or don't want it. You know, it's there, it's ready for you when you do want it or when you think you need it. But at no point should anything be forced on anybody if they're not ready, because that produces, you know, some abhorrent results for, you know, venomous kind of responses, because the traumas that we all deal with, we don't know what one another is dealing with. And that's why with symbolism, you know, when people are wearing it, there are many people saying that, you know, they start conversations and now they've built friendships because they've seen somebody who is wearing one, and as a result it makes them feel an affinity with that other person, because you know, as much as we're not talking enough to one another about what we actually think personally. You know, we're told we're almost nurtured into a way that we should be thinking or feeling, because this is the Black voice, this is the Black narrative, this is what Black people do, this is what Black people have done. Well, that's not true. That's what that Black person has done. That's what that Black person, you know, that's you know, based on their upbringing and their environment. So what I was hoping for Black Poppy Rose was that our community, you know, and communities who wanted to learn more would use it as a platform to be able to start having a say and being confident that their say matters, that their voice matters, irrespective of where they are, irrespective of who's saying, well, you know, we already do this for you, but you're unable to do this for me because I'm telling you this is how I want it done for me. And I'm asking you to make space for me as our ancestors continue to do, so that there's respect on our name, there is respect on our contribution, there is respect on our title. So when we're having to deal with these microaggressions, these micro racism, all of these things that, you know, people don't actually realize are actually are happening to them, or we're going through or going through to our children, that we are empowered with our truth, our understanding, our history, our connectivity. So when we're facing the world that tells us that we don't matter, yeah, we already know that that is a fallacy, and we will prove that time and time again, and we will continue to carve out the spaces that are required for us to carve out for future generations to also be empowered by that narrative.
Absolutely. You know, you're singing my song.
But that would go down to what we teach in our schools.
No,
because if the curriculum doesn't, and I say, but that as well. But schools has to remember, in certain, there's a high population of children from the community, the Asian community. And as I've gone around looking at schools for my son, the first thing I ask is, how do you meet the needs of the pupils in your school? What are you teaching in English? What are you teaching here? Like, I know they've got this thing of let's do some steel pans for them. Yep. But we are more than steel pans and more than in a field. Yep. I really hate it. There's so much more to us. Like, you've got Kwame Nkrumah, you've got JJ. There's so many people that I could really name from my culture that have been great people. But then when you're trying to get our kids not to, oh, but maybe music is for you or for you. Why can't science? Why can't maths be for them? You know, we've got a guest that we had who works for the NHS. He's amazing. Like, you know, he's the first Black in his profession. Our kids to be more, you know, and especially in our communities, why can't we teach our history rather than down and just be on an iPad? Like, it's so important. And that's
hold on. You got to start it there, Selena. You've got to start it. I want to hear from the guest now.
Thank you, Selena. Sorry. I'm sorry.
Please don't be sorry.
Okay,
because
so I'll go with the next.
With that, remember, our schools are literally just that. They're just schools. Yeah. The national curriculum isn't designed by schools.
Indeed.
Yeah. And our teachers, you know, they're in a predicament that they're in various different predicaments, right? And the idea is to educate individuals, because then individuals are able to make sense of the parameters that they are gifted to be able to make these inclusions. And when it comes down to, you know, who is classified as significant, who decides that? Who decides that? Let me see, for this country, who decides that Ignatius Sancho, the first Black man to vote in this country, or Leary Constantine, the first Black peer in the House of Lords, or Diane Abbott, the first Black woman MP, who decides which one of those three is most important for the narrative of this country? Before we even get outside of, you know, of anybody else, or people who don't, you know, really understand. But who decides that those three in particular are important from the 1790 to 1900s?
You make a really powerful point. I know that Professor Patrick Vernon is on a committee to discussing what's in the national curriculum. And there are other notable academics who have been interacting with the government Department of Education to ensure that the recording and teaching of history of African people, Black people if you like, treats us with respect. And doesn't simply focus on our incarceration during the period of our enslavement, but recognizes our long, majestic history which is evidently far greater in terms of its length than history of Britain, for example. And of course, much of the technologies are founded upon African inspiration, mathematics, literature, science, astrology, okay, are all African concepts which are today manifesting the society we have. So Selena, I've just noted that some of our guests couldn't hear you in response to earlier questions, and I don't want you to go word for word, okay? But where you can, really the answer to the second question, is it your experience that the British military agencies appreciate the sacrifices African or black women and men have made in service of Britain? I know you gave an answer, but I think there were quite a number of people who couldn't quite hear you.
Okay.
If you can just give a partial response, I'd be grateful. Yeah.
So I do think that they appreciate it because it's about bottoms filling seats, and if you're able to do the job whilst you're filling the seat, then I definitely think they're appreciative of that. Whether or not they feel that needs any additional, celebration, I'm not sure about that. But it's definitely about bottoms filling seats. And I'm not in the military, but I know I hear many stories of those who have served, and they talk about the warfare that they have to go through in regards to a lot of the prejudice nature that can be found within the army. But that's the same prejudices that Diane Abbott and Dawn Butler are facing as MPs in the House of Lords. It doesn't matter what environment you're in, for you to be underappreciated based on your race and based on your gender. And I had said about that we're a part of a colonial infrastructure. So since 1884, when they divided up Africa, and the 1700s, where they divided up the West Indies and North America, we've been under European infrastructure, racist infrastructure from our perspectives, designed to impoverish and keep people of color in a certain position. So no matter what parts of the world you're going in, there are positions that are allocated for us, because if you allow those you have colonized to gain equality with you, you then have got a new enemy. So you undereducate them, you keep their money at a certain level, you keep their people at a certain position. So you offer them work, because being in the army is a job. You offer them 4 years in this country, not 5 years. 5 years would make them eligible for citizenship. So you offer them 4 years, and then you send them home.
That's right. Yeah.
Don't ask me what you send them home to do, but they've done their work experience, they've been paid, they've been able to have access to whatever they could have access to for the 4 years. But again, this is my opinion, right? But you send them home to do what? But that's not their business, When we look at it from an emotional perspective. That's not their business. Everything about this world is about making money. Yeah, it's not about whether or not you're nice or you're likable. It's about making money. That is a fact. Look at any job. Your personality brings character and brings more to making money at the end of the day to the table, no matter what environment you're in. And our contributions, without Second World War, we wouldn't be in this country, these numbers that we are in this country, because they asked us to come and rebuild their country.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
So, but they didn't expect us to stay here as long as we stayed here. They expected us to go home because we are servants for them. Yeah, they expected us to return back to the colonies that they had created for us in the West Indies, and to the environment on the continent of Africa, where they would be able to continuously benefit from our resources. Yeah, that's the truth of the foundation. So anything we go into, we will be appreciated for our labor, but whether or not we're appreciated for our community, that's another conversation that people have to have within the environments that they find themselves in. And we all make opinions about things that we have no access to information. We have no access to anything that would allow us to have the conversations to be able to develop on those opinions. So I'm very careful with what I say about environments that I don't have access to. But I definitely know that in any working environment, it's definitely about making money, building business, building relationships to be able to continue to develop business. And whether or not you appreciate somebody because of their racial classification, I don't believe that is in existence in many places. And I don't believe that that it necessarily matters to Europeans when it comes down to ensuring that they pick the best person for the job from their perspectives. It's almost like Star Trek, They had a they had a multinational fleet. Yeah, why? So they could send the person of that face of those people to those people to be able to deliver Starfleet's commands. That's how it was. Did they celebrate them? Yes, on how much they could subdue their people to get them to believe in what they were doing for Starfleet. So that's how I see it.
Interesting, and evidentially, you are correct. Evidence it's abundant, So I can't sugarcoat it in any way. You're quite correct. Has there not been improvement? After all, the army was found to be institutionally racist, and it had to put in place a program to remedy that situation. The Home Office, through the Macpherson report, would identify, or the police, I should say, would identify it being institutionally racist, and it had to go through a process of redeeming itself. And there have been other institutions which have been identified as being institutionally racist. And the army itself, of course, its efforts to redeem itself, I should we not give them any congratulations for at least trying? Selena? Oh, have I lost you?
You want me to
Yes.
you want a whole me to answer that.
Ah,
What I will say to that, Martin,
okay.
what I will say to that, yeah, is we haven't had enough time,
Okay.
yeah. So we haven't had enough time, and the atrocities that we're still dealing with, and we're still being needed. The bread is not in the oven. We're still needing that dough, and acknowledging that conversations are now being had, I can definitely get down with. But we're not in any place to celebrate anything right now.
Okay.
Yeah. And because acknowledgement doesn't change the fact that, the statistics still show that our children are being undereducated based on basic facts. It doesn't stop the fact that prejudice based on stereotypes for our people are still in place, because organizations are now prepared to have a conversation because they have been forced to by these terms: diversity, equality, and inclusion. This is a 30-year conversation. Every generation, it takes 30 years for everybody to fine tune their thoughts, feelings, get information, get experience, to be able to then have a conclusive conversation that can start looking at some of these issues. And I don't think that we've had enough time, and we're continuously being triggered by different things that are happening in our communities that keep us at a stalemate. So I don't think we're in a position to be celebrating anything right now, but to be encouraging further conversations to be had, so we can keep having ongoing conversations based on people who are now being appointed to be spokespersons for the overarching Black community, and who are deciding what is best for all Black people, of all classes, of all racial backgrounds, and that oneness of deciding what's conclusive for all Black people. We've still got some time to be able to get into that, because again, there is no one Black voice, there is no one Black perspective. So to have something and say, well, at least we've got something, I don't work from that. At least we've got something,
And if I may, before I bring back Abner, of course, I'm conscious that the army was found to be institutionally racist, and they had to put in place, take steps to remedy that assessment. Um, have you sort of monitored what they've done in terms of seeking to address the issue of being institutionally racist, or you see no change whatsoever? And is that the view across all the services, I wonder?
So no, I haven't seen, because I don't work with them in that particular type of way. But what I have seen is that, they're now, the world is on diversity, inclusion, and equality,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
And as a result of that, that is what people are getting funding for. That is what people are getting money for. That's how people are able to get people to recruit into their infrastructures, because they have to be seen to be inclusive. And right now, everybody's ensuring that they do something for Black History Month to show that they are inclusive, you know. I personally, and this is why I say everybody's on a personal journey, people who are on that personal journey and who are a part of these infrastructures, it's almost a sense of responsibility to be able to nurture what you need from the environments that you find yourselves in. And because we are in the age of diversity, equality, and inclusion, everybody has to tick those boxes to be able to get access to money.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I think.
And I can't
size.
And I'm unable to differentiate whether or not that's a genuine, progressive step or movement. But I know that it's a mandated mandate that's been put in by our government to say you must use these terms to show that you are including all people. It's difficult because, again, it's difficult because we want to say yes, we're there, but we're not there. We're not there. And I'm not saying that we're not getting there. I'm not saying that we're not working to be there, but we are not there, right?
Absolutely.
And every single one of us has a responsibility to get us moving. Our personal opinions, they're wonderful, but what are those personal opinions doing to contribute to the wider matter? What are we changing about our environments to be able to ensure that our opinions are creating what we're saying that we want to see? And when it comes to institutions, they are mandated by whatever it is that they have put in place for their organizations to function, to get access to money, to get access to government money. Because most businesses have access to government money.
Yes. Okay.
And it's all about money. It's all about servitude. It's all about, ensuring that the infrastructure is able to continue to grow. You grow as people. Education and the educational system is not about being educated in the way that we understand education. It's about educating people to enter a world that exists in the way that it has always existed. And that's why our children go through what they go through. So they're acceptable into a world that's been created, that have told us that they need to have these measures to be able to be welcomed into that world.
Thank you for that answer. But it is. I say to many who are listening to us at the moment, I listen very carefully to women. I've known to listen to women who've had children.
You have to, because we're the heads of the household. One.
Hold on a second. Oh, I'm not going there. Women who have children, you see, or women who are taking care of children, have a vested interest to ensure a wholesome world. Okay, and so they'll go beyond,
Well, I'm head of my household. I'll put it that way. I'm head of my household.
Okay, I'm not going down that one either. But I'm going to say though, what I'm going to say is that I think it's difficult to argue with what you've said, because clearly all the indices suggest that the society is still racism pervades the entirety of British society, okay? And therefore we've always got to be on alert. We've always got to defend ourselves against it. But there are far too many of our people who are not able to cope. And what you're seeing in the stats, particularly in mental health, for example of the enormous pressure that's been placed upon members of our community. And it is deplorable. It is deplorable. But I've met many English, Scots, Welsh, white people who want to see change. And maybe I should get a few of them on this show. We just talk about society and how together we can make that change. Because we can't do it by ourselves. I think you agree with that, Selina. We can't do it by ourselves.
I definitely agree with you. But you have to remember, and this is, I don't think this is any disrespect or any way, but I feel like the change can only happen if certain people want that change to happen. And remember, we have to go through a lot of hoops, and the top don't want to see us grow and progress and to see that change. So I think as long as we feed as much through our children as we possibly can. And I'm not saying, like, when people say to me, go back to your country, or say whatever they say to me, I said, I'm here by default. I said, I could be living on the land, parents' house, and just be enjoying the fruits of labor. But obviously I'm here and it's due to colonization and whatever means I'm here by. But I think as much as we push, they push back as well. So it's so hard for them to understand our struggles, our needs, when it's a tick by those companies. People really want to hear what we got to say because they just they feel like they're tired or we're just complaining. And I honestly do feel it's like that.
Okay, and I hear
but
that. They
next
know what
question, sorry.
Well, Empress, on that note, right?
Selena, the next question. Yeah.
Sorry. I think Selena's going to say something.
Listening, Selena.
On that note, right? What is home and who gets to decide, right? Because being English, you know, is a new concept in itself. Yeah. Yep. So when they say go home, what does that mean? What does it really mean? You know, the jobs that the people of this country did not want to do, they have to, and they still import us to come and do those jobs. Okay. So when you're saying go home, what are they saying? What do you mean go home? Because those narratives keep us from understanding that wherever we go, we are home.
That's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And wherever we want to build, we can build. You know, who are you talking to? Really? What are you building in your home? And what have I come here to build now in my home?
Absolutely right. Thank you for that.
Definitely. Because even when I was talking to my friend about it, I just wanted to make this. I was talking to my friend and she told me that I told her. Sorry? You're cutting out, Councillor. I can't hear you.
Okay, I know. You go ahead. Keep talking.
Okay. I was going to say, because even just back to your point, Selena, my friend said someone told her to go back home. And she said, what, you want me to go back to Lewisham? And she had to laugh. And I was like, but to me, I know it's sad. I haven't been Ghana in years, but home to me. Because my grandparents are there, my family, that is home to me. I feel comfortable. I feel safe. I feel like I'm with mine. And I know that's bad because I am born here, but I am Ghanaian. My name is Ghanaian. So that is home to me. It may not be home to other people, but it's home to me. And my son's like, when are we going back home, Mum? When are we going back to Ghana?
But with that, you see, when it comes down to home, where are you building? Where do you pay your taxes? Where do you get access to your resources? You know, that's your home.
Lena,
as well.
You got me.
Listen, because there is no one home. Yeah. There is no one home, and we set ourselves up, and we should, especially those of us who are first generation, second generation, born in this country. We have homes. We have access to a world that we're able to develop from. But if you are not sending money back to your home, you're not developing the place you call home, then what are we talking about? We have to understand what we're saying and what we're doing, because if you classify somewhere as your home, you're going to build there. We wave our flags, we do all of these things, but what are we building in our homes besides saying things, you know, or making statements about what they're doing? What are we doing to assist in the things that they are doing, you know? And the markers that we are still controlled by the IMF, by the World Health Organization, by all of the embargoes, you know, that set our homes, you know, in such a way that when we have our conversation about things we don't actually know about, there are things set in place for us to still be in a particular position that we are not educating ourselves about, to be able to be at the tables, to hear those things, that we can have a more worldly view about the conversations we're having about these places we call home.
Well said. Well said. It is an evident.
Thank you, Selena. You put this. Selena put me in my place this morning. I love it. And the next question is, how can young people get involved in the campaign? Is there initiatives targeted at the young?
We're developing the initiative now, and the initiative is around genealogy. Who do you think you are? Just like the show, it's who do you think you are? And we nurture them from that perspective, because again, I was born in the 80s. I grew up in the 90s. So early 2000 is when I became an adult. So I've seen the world. I've had the experiences from looking at the 60s, 70s before I was born. So I'm a part of that middle group of that 50-year kind of environment. So looking at our young people now, they're completely different people. But every generation is a completely different set of people based on the environment. 100%. And what I'm looking at is how do I show them my experience without putting my experience on them. I want to know their experience. Who do they see themselves as? What do they see themselves as? And being able to get them through history from that perspective, rather than me telling them, this is what you should know as Black children. This is what you should know as Black British children. This is what you should know as Black West Indian children, Black West African children. Where are they? We're meeting our children where they are, not where we think they should be, not on what we think they should know, not on what we think they should be expressing themselves as. Growing up, I was told what Black people were supposed to do, and I didn't do half of those things. So I'm like, so you're telling me I'm not Black because I don't meet this box that you've made or that somebody's told you we make. So as a result of my upbringing, and that's what we all do, we look at the things that we feel were mistakes or with things that weren't quite right within our upbringing. And now what we're doing, what I'm trying to do with our young people, is to try and meet them where they are. Where are you? And where do you think you want to go? And let me help you to understand. Here are some of the things that have happened in chronological order. Not that I've made up or I've decided to give you my feelings and opinions on. This is what are in the books that they're writing and giving to us. Yeah, this is what happened. This is when, politics, Black people started to add their narrative to politics, here in the 1980s, here in, 1913, here in 1776, here are key pointers. And this is what has happened. And if you can see an example, the same things happening from 1776 and in 2020, then you know that there's a deeper problem. It's not just that we're not being given, in quotes, opportunities. It's not that we're not being given, the education. It's not that we're not getting, first on those degrees. It's not that we're not doing any of those things. There has to be something else at play why the examples are still producing the same results over 200 years later. So that's where we are with our young people, as opposed to telling them, this is your culture, this is your understanding, this is your identity. Because I use key examples like, anybody eating pasta and you're not Italian, you've adopted somebody else's culture. Because that Italian grandma has taught her Italian children how to make pasta, because that is their traditional cultural food. And now the whole of us are eating our macaroni and cheese. From which pasta? From where?
I love macaroni and cheese.
Exactly, but are you Italian? And as a result of that, it's looking at how other cultures are now a part of our cultures. Our children are growing up watching anime. That's Japanese culture. Yeah. They're learning Japanese culture. Everything that we have access to, we're learning, and we're absorbing other people's cultures, and we're making them unique to us. And every generation, culture is an evolving thing. It's not one thing, it's ever evolving. And because we're here, we've got access to so much. We are absorbing cultures. And what happens is that we then say, oh no, we have to be strict with our culture. This is all that we do. That's not true. But what we do have to do is we have to learn about the cultures that most resonate with us and carry them forward, because we're losing so much because we don't think anything is important in that way, because we're so busy with the things that we feel that are integral to the continuation of even a glimpse of our culture. That's what we should be passing on. So for me, because my family's Jamaican, that's going to be pimento, nutmeg, cinnamon leaves, pimento leaves, and drinking herbs and bushes to be able to help you with ailments alongside the medicine, the modern medicine, because there is no one without the other. We wasn't born in a world where there was just one thing or just another thing, but that's a part of the culture I am still moving forward with, along with many aspects. But that's just one area, because knowledge of what you're putting inside yourself and how you're reacting is key to culture. So our sicknesses, our mental breakdowns is based on our foods, water, medicines, things that we're watching on television, the people that we allow to share our energies, the experiences that we go through. All of those things are impacting who we're becoming. And then we think that we all come from the same measure. Oh, well, in my day we had, well, in your day, they weren't feeding pigs antibiotics. You know, in your day, they weren't battery, you know, they weren't caging chickens in that way. You know, it's an evolution of time and things are changing, but we are not paying attention to the changes that are being made that are now impacting our output and the children and the babies that we have and the environments that we put them in.
Yes, you're absolutely right. And it is interesting as we're discussing how we remember our fallen heroines and heroes, and indeed those who are approaching the end of their lives now. But yet it is far more comprehensive a subject than simply that. And what you're illuminating is that this is a part of a very large matrix, yeah, to which this particular subject is but one. Okay? But I wanted to bring us back to the subject, though, of ex-service women and men who are alive but need support. Are you able to, as part of this campaign, refer to particular examples where the campaign has helped those who have benefited from the campaign, either UK or Africa, anywhere?
Since COVID, we haven't been supportive of any groups or organizations. We would have almost not been here if so. I've been revamping and realigning what we can actually do and how we do it to be able to generate capital in that way. But we haven't been supportive. The only thing that we currently do to support our communities is by pumping out education information about for people to be able to remember contributing factors and different regiments, different locations, things like that, so people can start looking at what's in their local communities to see how they can support and assist their own families, you know, local veterans, people that they feel are contributing in ways that are valuable to them. So that's where we're at the moment. So I'm hoping the next 2 years that we'll be able to, because based on the partnerships that we're going to be developing and working on, the people that we're working on and the services we're providing them, is then to go towards how we look at supporting our groups and our communities throughout the world. So we work with the Commonwealth War Graves Commission, who are responsible for the graves all over the world. And they are, because we were part of the report about the disparity on remembrance for the African, West Indian, and the Indian service personnel. So they have been developing programs to be more supportive of our communities on the continent, within Asia and in the West Indies, to ensure that the narrative and the information that's available is one that's an ongoing one, so that we can keep producing this level of interest and ongoing future development for young people to be involved. Because without young people taking up the mantle to be able to be educated, everything will stop when, you know, a generation stops doing that.
Thank you, Selina. And a quick question for you: Can viewers and listeners obtain the Black Poppy Rose via your website, or there any other outlet that they can obtain the Black Poppy Rose?
So we're on www.blackpoppyrose.org. You can get your merchandise there. You can also go down to the Black Cultural Archives in Brixton and get your pins there. You can also become.
So it's all very quick. Very quick now. Give us the website again. The website address.
All right.
Paper.
Selena, I like it.
Oh, there you go.
Nobody likes me. So if you love me or you just can't. Nobody, there's no liking. Nobody likes me.
No, I like you. You're my type of girl. I can rock with you.
The website is blackpoppyrose.org.
Black Poppy Rose.
We're on all social medias as Black Poppy Rose. Everything is Black Poppy Rose. You know, people call it Black Poppy because it's easier for them to understand, because there's a red, a white, and a purple. But we are a Black Poppy Rose because we talk about more than just the war. We don't have just one World War I and II to talk about. We've got to talk about other things as well. And, you know, the transatlantic slave trade made it so that the army could buy our men and put them into lifelong service into their armies. You know, that's the heritage of military of this country that we're dealing with. You know, we also don't deal with just Britain. We deal with France and Germany and Italy and Spain and the Netherlands and the Dutch, you know, the Netherlands, the Dutch, the Italians, the Portuguese, to be able to look at our histories that relate to those European nations.
Yes.
You know, when we're in Britain, we only remember the British occupation. But when you're saying you're an African, you've got to own the continent. You know, it's a whole continent. It's a continent. It's not just the country. And
Well,
when you say you're your brother's keeper, your sister's keeper, what does that mean? What does that look like when you have over a billion brothers and sisters? You know? And when we're wearing this, the idea is how do we allow our brothers and sisters to be educated in the way that they see fit to share information with you that you would not get access to? And asking somebody else to give you the information, how much of that information are they giving you? Where are they getting that information from? How are they interpreting that information? And, you know, we've all got our own interests about why we're doing it. And my interest is for us to be able to gain self-respect first and foremost, because then the things that we're tolerating, we will stop tolerating because we don't deserve to be tolerating that. But when you don't know, you sit back because you don't know. But when you do know, that's the challenge. And that's why we're undereducated. Because when people know, they are forced to do something about it because nothing stops you from building what you build. You know, the more I learn about our history and our information, there are abhorrent things, there are wonderful things, there are sad things, there are happy, there are so many things. But those same things are inside me as a human being, as a person. So if I am able to feel that based on me learning or adapting, whatever that truth is, I've got to find that information and make that sit in the truth that is me and bring that forward. And that's what I encourage for everybody. Find the truth within you, because my truth is not going to be yours. And I don't have to have the same opinion with you for us to move and work forward. Yeah. But what I'm doing is not wrong for me. It might be wrong for you, but that's fine. Keep doing what is right for you, but you don't have to do that anywhere near me. And I don't have to do it anywhere near you.
I like that. I can just say, and it's important for the listeners to appreciate this
Go,
also.
Selena. Go, Selena.
What should I say? That the aim of the Black Poppy Rose campaign, and I've got it in my background, to make the Black Poppy Rose, you got it, yeah, a symbol of remembrance worldwide. To educate and empower through understanding historical timeline.
Yep.
Absolutely, absolutely. To empower self-identity within the African and Black, West Indian, Caribbean, Pacific Islands, and indigenous nations communities. Absolutely. Empower identity. Absolutely right. I call this the de-brainwashing show, you know, the de-brainwash to give an African worldview on world events, you know, and what you've been able to do would extreme. Well, I've got to say, you should be a politician. I could get you into Parliament. You would be a wonderful advocate for not only our
He wants to get everyone in. He wants to.
But you see, when you're in Parliament, you know, that's another cage. You know.
We're all caged. We're in an open cage right now. I've got no idea, you know. But at least you're
women like us
in
like to be the motivator.
Oh, we're
women like us don't like to be.
Yeah, we are. We are all in the cage.
No.
We are. I agree. We are all in the cage. However, you know, I am very mindful about the cages that I try and assign myself to or put myself in. When I look at, you know, you know, being a councillor gives you more freedom than an MP, you know. So and then, you know, when you're a lord, you know, it's even. But again, you're able to have conversations at different levels. So again, it's about knowing the path that you're going to take, what cage you want to you know, to tackle, and learning about, you know, every single bar, every single material that's, you know, used to make that bar, whether or not you're able to take any kind of materials in with you that will then dissolve. So, you know, it's about developmental thinking based on the environments. And what I try to get people to understand is only do one thing. Yeah, do one thing, because that one thing can evolve so many other things. But when we spend so much time doing more than one thing, that's where we get tired. That's where we get venomous. That's where we get, you know, we become, you know, disillusioned about, you know, realities of things. But you have to try and do one thing. You know, when I do, you know, African, Black, West Indian, Pacific Island, indigenous military history, although that's one thing, That's one thing that then takes me down to psychology, sociology, anthropology. It takes me down so many different roads, but that's one thing I'm deciding to specialize on, that allows me to open up other worlds from that and bring it back to the one. Always bring it back to the one, but you will open so many different things. And that's what I encourage. And that's why the idea is to empower self-identity, because I cannot determine who you classify yourself to be as a self,
Yes.
and I am unable to decipher what you classify as education or empowerment. When I speak about the work that I do, it's based on the books, as you can see behind me, that I read, and the people that I talk to, and the lives that I go and interact with, and then my own lives, and looking at my own self and my own family, my own experiences. What do I like? So when I say confidently that if you're going to offer me cake, offer me cheesecake, because I've decided that if whatever I'm going to have first, I'm going to have a cheesecake first, and then I'll have a Victoria sponge, and then I'll have a carrot cake. But that's just, that's what I've decided, and this is a model that works for me. So I know.
Go off. She loves cakes and desserts. I love Selena already. I love her.
But that way, because then when I talk to people about cake, I then say, I source my flour in the Iberian Peninsula. I go to Spain and get my flour. Whereas you get your flour, you don't know where your flour comes from, but I know where my flour comes from. I know where I'm getting my sugar from. I know which company's making the equipment that's going to be able to blend all of those things together. That's where I am with myself. And that's what I need to be able to understand the world that I'm a part of. So that's how I'm able to engage with other people, for them to understand why, when they see me, this is what I am, this is who I am, and this is how I choose to express myself using my mother tongue, which is English, to be able to describe that, because I have no other language.
A question for you then, Selena. Will you
Sorry?
be laying a wreath at the Centre Park in London this year?
No, I won't be, because I didn't submit my application. I didn't submit my application because you have to apply to lay your wreaths at the cenotaph. I didn't put my application in time, so I will not be there. Where will I be? I'll be in Greenwich. I'll be in Greenwich. I'll be at the National Maritime Museum, because I'm working with them on a Remembrance Sunday event on Sunday the 13th of November. So I'll be there laying a wreath, and we have wreaths on sale. So on the website, we have 10 right now available. So you are able, the idea is for everybody to buy their own wreaths and take them to their local cenotaphs, because your local community is where you are to be building, I doubt I will ever do a national Black Poppy Rose remembrance around this time. It will be another time for us to come together collectively to do something else, but it will never be in this time, because the idea is locally, bring out your local history, ensure your representation in your community is there, because today where you live is your home. Remember in your home, remember in the place that you are, you're working, you are utilizing all the benefits here. Go and be remembered in your place. And then those who are in the other homes, also encourage them to go and remember. So as time goes on, we don't feel, a void in time. But at this point, we don't remember ourselves at all, because this is how we feel about it. But in our local communities, we're able to share our stories with one another, be able to do that, because once your community comes together, your community will change your schools.
Absolutely.
The community will decide that this is what we as a community need, and that's what we're encouraging for our communities to move forward with. And this is not, this is not going to happen tomorrow. Yep.
I'm going to get your Councillor Martin, because I might want you to come into my schools and maybe do a talk. Okay. No, I didn't. We cheesecake and for you, whatever you want. We're there for you. But unfortunately, I have to go right now because I've got an appointment. But speaking to you, Selena, but I want to make contact. I think you're going to help me grow and build knowledge, and I work in the community, so I definitely want to do some work with you, hopefully. Okay. But enjoy your weekend, guys. And I'll speak to you soon. Martin, don't forget to send Selena's details to me. Take care. Bye.
Okay. So it is interesting, Selena, as the Belgian fish has gone. It's interesting to listen to you. Each year you come along, you become even more dynamic, if I may say so. All right, and it's been a pleasure. I can sit back and listen. I don't mind speaking if I'm given the opportunity to, but it was a pleasure to listen to you. You've
Thank
truly
you.
become empowered through the campaign. You've obviously been exposed to quite a number of interesting people. In addition to your books, I know as you go out and you meet people, it's an amazing number of remarkable people in our community. Those who've served and those we've become aware who've sacrificed their lives for us. You know, um, they've clearly affected you. You're becoming much more powerful as you get older, huh? Is that true, or I just imagine this myself?
No, it's true. It is true. It's definitely true because now that I'm 40,
Uh-huh.
I'm like, now I'm 40, I've, that's 4 decades on the planet, you know. And what I really encourage is that if we actually taught our children an aspect of the truth of the world that we live in,
Yeah,
being empowered at a young age to be able, when you get to 40, to be able to fine tune your concepts about life,
yeah,
will help the future generations to be able to keep abreast of their own integrity.
yes,
And as I move forward, and the more I read and the more that I travel and the more that I, immerse myself into this truth that I've understood, it allows me to be exactly what I feel to be. Because, none of us know where the words come from. We don't know what we're going to say. We don't know how we're going to respond. But when you fill yourself with enough, you're able to utilize what you're allowing yourself to be able to absorb. So this comes out of my pores, it comes out of my hair follicles, it comes out of my fingernails, it comes out of my toes, it comes out onto my clothes. It's my perfume, it's my soap, it's my, it's a part of me, but it's
yeah,
not the only part of me. So I'm able to then nourish the other parts of me to be able to encourage that continuation, that strength, the areas of improvement, to be able to share that with different people who are interested. Because again, if you don't call me, then I don't know that you're interested because I'm not able to find you.
I understand. I understand. Will you come back next year?
Oh, of course.
Oh, there you are.
I have a
That's
book next year. There'll be a book next year as well.
like your book. What's the
there'll
book
be a
about?
book. There'll be a book next year, and there'll be a lot more. There'll be a lot more available by next year. So there'll be a lot more to talk about and to be able to tell you where we are in the world and what we're doing and things that we're developing on.
Good, good, good. Did this thing in conclusion, then, Casey, that you've been an outstanding guest. Each time you come along, I receive messages on my phone from particularly young people who want to know more. They want to know more. They're thirsty for knowledge. Okay? And I'm just very conscious that you're but one person. So I'm
So there'll be
hoping
courses.
yeah,
So from spring next year, there'll be courses available, and we're available for courses and workshops. So the environment that you're in, you can book us to come and deliver. We can come and we do 6-month programs,
okay,
empowerment educational program for young people. Um, over a 6-month period because again one-offs are one-offs, they're one-offs, so we don't do one-offs in that way. When it comes to our young people, we do 6 months programs which allows them to be able to develop some of the skills around understanding history, understanding genealogy, understanding themselves and where they want to go to, and to be able to provide that support on an ongoing feature.
brilliant. All right, I think we're almost out of time now. So I did want to give a further quick plug of your website. It's www.blackpoppyrose.org, O-R-G, blackpoppyrose.org. And it is a wonderful website. It is information rich, and each of the various questions we put to Selena today have emanated from the website. So it's a good reference point. Well done on the website. And I really hope that those who are listening will spread the word and they will acquire we sent the packages, packages, both the wreaths and the roses themselves, the single package. I will obtain mine. I'm sorry, I couldn't get it organized in time. Otherwise, I'd be wearing mine now. So I apologize in advance. But next time I'll be better organized.
Wonderful.
But Selena, thank you so much for being an outstanding guest, an inspired guest, if I may say so. And oh gosh, if you're this powerful now, next year, oh my gosh, it'll be a pleasure to behold. Take care I want you and your family to be well always.
Thank you.
And we're always here to serve you in any way we can.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much. Okay. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Wow. Listeners, wasn't that powerful? Wasn't that powerful, huh? Doesn't she demonstrate the incredible talent in our community? You know, a desire to ensure the knowledge of those of our communities who served in the army, the air force, the navy, the British special forces, who served this country, and in some cases made the ultimate sacrifice, who died for Britain. That their names is never forgotten. We will remember them. There it is. We will remember. Even if those in the establishment are so small-minded that they would wish to overlook the contributions made by Black or African members of British societies. We will remember them. We will remember them. And I compliment Celine McCarthy for the campaign. And long may it continue so. But I also want to compliment a group of members of our community who I understand have gone to France today. Okay. And this is to lay a wreath at a special place, I understand. A group of men and women, some are ex-service men and women, have gone to France to lay a wreath. And I'm just going to bring up the details on my phone now for you all. And these wreaths are to remember our fallen in France. Now, it is interesting that if I can bring it up, it is interesting that there we go. So there's a wreath laying ceremony in Etaples in France to commemorate the West Indian Regiment and the British West India Regiment today, October 1st. So they've gone to lay the wreath. Okay. So I wish them well. I wish them well, and I hope to get a recording of their experience today, and I'll play that recording in a future program. But I commend them that our fallen are not forgotten, even if some small-minded individuals wish to forget our contribution, okay, our significant contribution to ensuring that Britain is Britain today. Despite what the children are taught in schools, it's only a small part of our contribution. So I look forward to significant changes are made to the national curriculum. I look forward to the new monarch, to the Prime Minister, to the government, acknowledging the contribution made by Black people, African peoples, in all the wars that Britain has fought, and recognizing our contribution, indeed those who've made the ultimate sacrifice. That's all we ask, for equality under the law. That's all we ask. That's why the 2010 Equalities Act is such an important piece of legislation. I'll let that sink in, but now I must leave you. Until the next strong, I remain the motivator, where we translate our words into action and remembering success is ours for the taking. Never forget, it's ours for the taking. Until next strong, thank you.